It's the Unhappy Hour.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles, to be specific, home of the only Cleveland-centric, Los Angeles-based sports show that we're currently aware of. That's called the Unhappy Hour, and I'm your host, Brian Engelman, here on the TNAM Radio Network, part of the NewAmericanMedia.com. Hello, howdy, thank you for listening and checking this out. We want to make sure you're linked up with all of us. We're going to talk to you today about the Browns firing GM Ray Farmer and head coach Mike Pettine. But to stay connected with us, we do live shows at thenewamericanmedia.com. There's a little link that says TNAM Radio on the right-hand side with an American flag. You click play to listen live. When do we go live? We tweet it out at American_media_, and we also put it on Facebook. Both Facebook and Twitter are located on the middle to right-hand side of thenewamericanmedia.com. So link up with us, set your notifications for awesome, and find out when we're going to be doing our shows. Also, make sure that you subscribe, youtube.com/The New American Media. And if you let those little advertisements play during our 4.5 years of content, our more than 530,000 video views, if you let the ads play, it's like throwing a couple pennies in our wishing well. We appreciate that because we're going to try to take some big leaps forward in 2016 as we cover the elections, as we cover... I just did a show with Blake the Eccentric Wally about what's going on in Bend, Oregon, with one of the members of the Bundy family from the Bundy Ranch situation just outside of Las Vegas. Blake and I went to go cover that live when it happened last year. Now there's another BLM issue going on up there. Still trying to gather details, trying to figure out what's going on. We just did a show. We'll post that in just a second. So, all that stuff being said, I want to kind of switch gears now, and I want to talk about the Cleveland Browns. It's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle when you're talking about the... Oh, man, it's going to do that. It's a vicious cycle when you're talking about the Browns. It's also a vicious cycle when we're talking about trying to get our guests on the phone, especially when you start typing their name in and then their information does not come up as it's supposed to. So we'll try to enter this phone number manually, which is fun. And by fun, I mean pretty annoying. But anyway, here, we'll try to call him now. Rob Trautman at rtrouty, RTRAUTY, on Twitter, and from Sports on Tap. I believe that's the at SOT podcast.
Brian, how you doing?
Rob Trautman, I'm doing great. I said you're on Twitter at rtrouty, and you're at SOT podcast. Am I correct?
You are right on, buddy. You still got it.
Yeah, just like the Browns front office. Still got it.
I don't know about that.
I know. It's a vicious cycle. It just kind of keeps... It's like a bad dream, a nightmare. I don't know. It's like Groundhog Day with this franchise. But real quick, before we get into the meat of what's going on with the Cleveland Browns, tell people about your show and what you're working on.
Yeah, we're Sports on Tap, and like you said, we're at SOT Podcast. We're a local podcast here in the Northeast Ohio area. We also cover Cleveland sports. You can hear some of our podcasts and what we have to say at neosportsinsiders.com. That's a lot of Cleveland sports, local sports, college sports. I mean, there's a lot of different things on there. You can check us out on Facebook as well, so we're all over the place, and pretty entertaining podcast, to say the least.
So that's www.neosportsinsiders.com, correct?
Absolutely, right on.
All right, well, let's talk about it. As no surprise to many, you could watch Ray Farmer during his press conference a few weeks ago sweating bullets. You knew this was coming. Justin Gilbert hasn't worked out. Johnny Manziel has not worked out. The franchise has been set back years. We've wasted the talent of one Joe Thomas, who now might be opting out and just saying, hey, man, I've been doing this long enough. I want to play for a winning team. I'm tired of new coaches every couple of years. Let's kind of get into what's going on. Talk about the front office shakeup. We can start there.
Well, you know, right now you have a guy, Sashi Brown, who is a lawyer or was a lawyer and is more on the financial side. He's going to be the vice president of the football operations side. And, you know, Jimmy Haslam said he's going to have the final say over the 53-man roster, which a lot of people were not too happy with. And, I was a little surprised at that. But as he got into it a little more, I don't know if he explained everything as well as he probably should have. But, when you're in that situation, then, you're going to forget some things. You're in front of the media. You're in front of national media all over the place.
You mean like when Jimmy Haslam forgets to set up his rebate program? Nice. I got you.
We're not going to get into that. That's a whole another deal.
Yeah.
But,
under Haslam's leadership, it's not surprising that T's were not crossed and I's were not dotted. But so it's not so much that they're making a lawyer run a team. How is your interpretation of it now that you've got some more information?
Well, they're going to hire a general manager. They're going to have obviously have to hire a coach, which I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I guess there's no right or wrong way to do this, but he's going to hire the coach first and then go after a general manager. And what was said was he's in charge of the financial part and some of the parts that the league is going to have to deal with. So he sends the information to the league, make sure all the wording's correct. But he's going to have to work with the general manager. He's going to have to work with the coach and the scouting department. He's not going to be really in charge of talent acquisition. He's going to be, in charge of talking to the guys and saying, all right, what's going on? What do we need here? What do we need there? And they're going to tell him exactly what they need. And I'm sure he's going to be in charge of the financial part. If it's going to work, I'm sure he's going to want some of the details on player acquisition so he can send it over to the league and that kind of thing. So everybody's going to be working together. He kept saying over and over, we need guys to be able to work together. And to me, that's saying, Coach Pettine and Ray Farmer kind of had a little bit of a problem working together. And you could kind of see it in their interviews that they just didn't get along, whether it's Ray Farmer, signing a Dwayne Bowe to a $9 million deal and him barely stepping foot on the football field, or Johnny Manziel barely making it on the field. That's all Mike Pettine's deal. But Ray Farmer signed those guys. So he was in charge of getting guys, and then Pettine has the decision if they want to play. And he just didn't feel like those guys should be on the field. So you could tell they were bumping heads. And I was a little surprised that Mike Pettine was gone. I thought maybe they give him another year. He had 7 wins in his first year, 3 in his second, which is not good. I'm not saying that's good, but maybe fire the defensive coordinator, O'Neill, and Ray Farmer, and then the new general manager gives him 1 more year to see what he can do. If he's not happy with it, then I think you go shopping. But in this case, they just wanted to rebuild and start all over again.
Yeah, it is a little weird that if there was a disconnect in the front office, they're already here. Why wouldn't you just replace either a head coach to work with the current GM or a new GM to work with the current head coach? It's, to a player like Joe Thomas, who every 2 or 3 years is seeing a new coach and a new system, new scheme, let alone the offensive line coach going to, what was it? He'd gotten domestic something. Is he in jail or he got charged with something? Losing our offensive line coach to start the year. And it's a lot like when Tom Herman left, offensive coordinator at Ohio State, goes down to Houston, has him as a top 10, top 15 team, and our offense can't get it going all year. You go, wow, that person played a critical role in what was going on here. But yeah, I mean, it is a little surprising, but it's not like Mike Pettine had the guys playing really sharp, smart, hard-nosed football. That defense they spent all their money on, and he's a defensive guy, was miserable. And Ray Farmer was wasting draft picks. Like, that's the one currency you have in the NFL to improve your team. It's through the draft, and to walk away from so many drafts since '99 with players that are no longer in the league, no longer on our team, complete busts. You can't really ignore that from the GM standpoint. I mean, it's almost. Let me say it like this, Rob. I just won in my fantasy football league. We started a double.
Hey, me too.
Oh, congratulations, sir! It really is one of life's. It's one of the greatest accomplishments a man or a woman can have in their entire lifetime. Would you agree with that? Because it's very hard to do.
I would agree, 100%. It's very hard to do.
Well, we did this double 12-man league for the Unhappy Hour. And I'd never heard of one, so of course we had to try it and make it complicated. And then the Denard Robinson point correction, 13-yard thing changed who was in the championship game. We had to come up with some solutions. Anyway, but cut to the chase here. We're trying to figure out who hasn't paid the dues, and we're like, hold on, who's this character? Well, I played their team a couple times. They were in my division. Turns out this guy signed up, but then he found out when the draft was, and he says, oh, I can't be there for the draft. It was a friend of a friend, and, we're putting two 12-man leagues together, and we're all busy, not paying attention to it. Apparently, he signed up, did an auto draft, and he had an 8-5 regular season record, and he never played. He didn't pick up anybody new. He had all these players on injured reserve. And hold on. So a guy not playing, literally doing nothing, is doing better than half of this league. Interesting. So, I relate this to Ray Farmer going, all you'd have to do is pick the biggest name on the board. Just watch ESPN in their mock drafts and go, all right, we'll take that guy. We'll take that guy. It's almost like by not overthinking it, you would have to be doing better than Ray Farmer. Just like this guy who didn't even touch his league, was 8-5 and was better than 80% of our league. Ray Farmer did not have a really good track record here.
No, and it really, you wonder if he actually talked to any of these players that he drafted. I mean, for instance, Justin Gilbert talked with the media today, and they asked him, which it's interesting, it comes out now, but during the year, I guess he missed 2 or 3 meetings. Well, here he overslept, and his answer to that answer was he's a very hard sleeper. And they asked him why he wasn't on the field, more or less, and all he said was because of nagging injuries. He thinks he played well this year. He thinks that he actually did well this year, and he couldn't figure out why he wasn't on the field more other than injuries. And he said also, the coaches probably think about last year when I couldn't make some meetings because I overslept, and they asked him what he meant by overslept, and he's a hard sleeper. He makes millions of dollars, but he finds it hard to set an alarm clock and make it on time to practice or to meetings. And, that to me, and listening to his interview, he thinks he's a really, really good football player. And I wish I was there because I'd ask him if you watch the same tape I've watched, even in preseason versus the Redskins, I think I saw him get beat 5 times, and he said, I really did well today. And I'm like, is he at the same game we're watching? I mean, he was one of the biggest busts. I mean, 8th pick overall. You trade down from 4. Sammy Watkins goes at 4 to Buffalo, and you pass up all kinds of good talent for a guy like Justin Gilbert, who if you would have talked to him, he's arrogant. He's not a team player. I mean, he didn't want to play the last game of this season, probably because he's afraid he's going to break a nail or who knows what. I mean, he's not going to have another injury and not be able to play in his career because chances are nobody's going to sign that guy. And then you look at Johnny Manziel. Apparently he was in Vegas. He was during the week, they even said, and the Browns have reported that there have been reports. I don't know how true these are. But there have been some sources that said that he was intoxicated, and the Cleveland Browns gave him the concussion protocol. And what did he end up doing? He still goes to Vegas and missed his rehab. He doesn't have to go to the field on Sundays. He was supposed to report to the trainers for the concussion protocol, and he never showed up. Well, apparently he wants to play in Dallas.
Yeah, I got this. It's pretty much the same thing. It's a report from, Dog Pound Nation. Sean Starr, we've almost had him on the program. We'll have to try to get that again in 2016. But it says, if the new info that Sports Illustrated's Peter King released on Johnny Manziel is true, I'm out on Manziel. Here's what he said. 3 tweets from Peter King. It says, reported on Manziel, Browns require players in their concussion protocol to be seen by the team medic at 9 a.m. on Sunday, even if they're not playing. Manziel didn't show Sunday. Browns couldn't reach him on phone. At this point, I can tell you Browns are so done with the guy. I will be stunned if he ever plays another snap for Cleveland. He wants to go to Dallas. So then Sean Starr, he says, if true, Haslam confirmed that Manziel failed to show up today. I would put the guy on the scout defense and break him. I wouldn't cut him and give him what he wants. So
and, that's I would agree with that 100%.
I mean, he's making less than Dwayne Bowe.
He'll ever get it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we had reports that even when he was in rehab, he wasn't following through with it. He's from day one said that and thought, another arrogant guy. I guess that's what Ray Farmer's legacy was. Arrogant, delusional people that have this grandiose complex where they think that they're better than everybody else. and they're really screwing up both on and off the field, despite all of that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all right, so we're drafting number 2. Who do you take at number 2? Do you assume that Joey Bosa goes number 1, or do you think his off-the-field problems and his targeting problem and some of these other things, do you think he's going to slip a little bit? Because the thing is, the Titans are at number 1, we're at number 2. They don't need a quarterback. They have Mariota. So you figure they're going to take someone else unless someone offers them a Washington Redskins or Rams kind of deal where you'd be a fool to pass it up, getting 3 or 4 first-round picks back for it. If you're the Browns, do you hit hard reset and get a new quarterback, or are there so many other problems on this team you don't even worry about quarterback yet?
Well, you know what? I think they're going to draft the quarterback somewhere in the draft. I think, Manziel probably will be gone. And then, who do you look to? Josh McCown. He's, kind of the bridge that we thought would maybe give some room to Manziel, who, is waiting in the wings. And at this point, I mean, I think, Joey Bosa is an absolute beast. And I think he could really wreak some havoc on quarterbacks. I really like him a lot coming off the defensive end. It's not just because I'm an Ohio State fan. I think Ezekiel Elliott's another guy that's probably going to be drafted high as a running back, but we don't necessarily need that at that position. But Joey Bosa, I would love to take him at number 2 if he's there. I'm trying to think of what Tennessee needs. They have a quarterback. And in this draft, I mean, I think there's some good quarterbacks, but none as high as what I think we've had, the last few years with Winston and Mariota. You have the Memphis quarterback who really struggled in his bowl game this last week. And, there's some other quarterbacks that are there that are still impressive. But I'm not sure the Browns need to draft one at that spot. I think you got to draft the best available player, really, at 2. And, you have the 32nd pick right now, which who knows if they'll still have it, as the draft comes closer. But if they do, you could draft a quarterback there or, whatever position. But the Browns need so many things right now. I think you have to draft the best available, really. And Joey Bosa on defense, we stunk on defense. We thought that was going to be a strong point, but what a nice way to have, a guy on one end, maybe Paul Kruger if he's still there, and Joey Bosa on one end. I mean, that would be a pretty nice combination that might force quarterbacks into some tough situations, and then Danny Shelton up the middle to stop the run. You got to really think about it defensively. Our offense, I don't think, was the problem this year when you look at the Cleveland Browns. I mean, we put up some points this year, but our defense ranks last in almost every single category, and that was the huge thing. I don't know if it was Jim O'Neill that just couldn't figure out a scheme, or if our players couldn't understand it, or if it's our players in general. So
is Jim O'Neill gone? Is he gone too then? I'm trying to figure. I mean, because our offense showed signs of life. Jim O'Neill should have been fired before the head coach and the GM, in my opinion. What happens with all of the other people and special teams? Are those guys all gone too? Or are they still in the house? I kind of missed that one.
We don't know everyone. I'd assume that Jim O'Neill's probably going to be gone. And they might.
The Browns would make him the head coach, though. The Browns would go, well, play like a Brown.
Try to outsmart everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Jim O'Neill, he actually didn't do that bad. It was all the players.
It was Mike Pettine holding him back.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, Jimmy Haslam did say during his press conference that they would be. He didn't give names, but he said he would be talking to a few players that they'd like to retain. And I would assume, the special teams coach, Coach Tabor, has been there through almost every single coaching change. I would assume they'll probably talk to him about staying on, but I don't quote.
Well, I mean, in special teams, how many field goals did we have blocked this year? Stupid stuff.
Well, and is that his fault, or is that Travis Coons just can't lift the ball high enough to get over the defenders? But then again, the blocking wasn't great either on special teams. Sometimes players getting through and blocking kicks. So,
yeah, I was going to say, like Cam Irving being out there, they're calling him like a noodle-armed weakling. He's just he's a baby among men, and he's just getting thrown around, and you saw it at least once, if not a couple times on the special teams unit, on the field goal unit. Man, there are problems across the board. I mean, Cam Irving was drafted to take over for Alex Mack, or I almost called him Kevin Mack, for Alex Mack when he leaves. Is that a done deal? Mack is out of here. after, in this offseason, he's gone and Irving's supposed to take over the ball at center? Is that...
You hope Max stays actually at this point because Cam Irving has not done well in his rookie season. I mean, that's obvious with watching him versus some of the better teams. I mean, he's whiffing all over the place. If you watch the Pittsburgh game, I don't know how many times he went to go block a guy, they do a spin move, and they're around him for a sack. I mean, he was slow, very slow with his feet this year, not very strong. And, if you rely on a guy like Cam Irving, maybe he's better at the center position. Maybe they saw something that we didn't with him at the center position, and maybe he was out of position. I don't know, but, I would hate to rely on a Cam Irving to fill in a role at, Alex Mack, who's done very well. The offensive line, actually, I thought some games they did good and some games they weren't so good, obviously. They weren't all strong games for him this year, which I thought it'd be the strong point. But I thought overall they did an okay job protecting the quarterbacks. The running game wasn't very good. I don't know if it was, again, the schemes that just didn't fit them. They couldn't figure it out or what it was. But to me, it seems like Alex Mack probably would be gone at this point. I mean, with the Browns going to Rehall, I could see Alex Mack going. I could see maybe the Browns trying to trade Joe Thomas. As much as I don't want to, I could see, Joe Thomas deserves to go to a winner as well. He's been on this team for a long time and gone through how many coaching changes? I think it's 5 now. So I think he deserves to play on a winner. And you can get some draft picks, like Jimmy Haslam said, we're going to build through the draft and do it the right way. So why not start collecting draft picks for some of these guys?
Yeah, and then the snafu when they tried to trade him at the trade deadline to Denver, there was confusion. People said they didn't even know who was in charge of this organization, who made the call, who pulled the trigger on personnel moves. That was the rumor. They didn't know if it was Jimmy Haslam. They didn't know if it was Ray Farmer. They didn't know if it was Mike Pettine. They didn't know if it was Alex Shiner. And you just go, you got to be kidding me. Like the lunatics are running the asylum over here.
Yeah, it's embarrassing when nobody knows what's going on. And I think that's a huge problem. And I think that's what Jimmy Haslam said they got to do. They got to get everyone needs to be on the same page. Everyone needs to know their role, their job. And I think he's speaking directly about, Ray Farmer and Mike Pettine and the rest of the crew, that they just all bumped heads and had no clue what anyone's role. What am I supposed to do? I mean, am I supposed to be picking players for the roster? I mean, it just seems like nobody got along. Nobody was on the same page, and it kind of showed with some of these picks.
Well, but if you read some of what's coming out from Haslam, though, is he's not going to clear this up in the offseason. He's going to muddy the waters again. He's going to say, well, we believe in a collective approach and a collaborative. No, you don't. The buck has to stop with somebody. There has to be one person in charge, and they consider the options of other people, and they pull the trigger. A GM should be in charge of the player personnel decisions, working with the head coach. And if that's not a harmonious... To me, I don't see Jimmy Haslam organizing this company any different. I see it getting even worse. I don't know if it was in what press release or in what context exactly, but I was reading something, and I believe it was from Haslam, and he was talking about more of a collaborative approach. I'm like, no, it's the opposite. It's too much collaboration. You need people... I'm going to look it up in a second here. There's a story about everybody thought
no,
somebody...
You know what? I do agree. I think Jimmy Haslam, once he hires these guys, he needs to let them do their jobs. I feel like sometimes he's trying to, like you say, run the Browns like Pilot J, and I think he acknowledged that this is a little bit tougher than he originally thought. But he needs to let these guys do their job and not overstep boundaries and have guys that have been in football a long time make some decisions. And
you mean unlike homeless people that convinced Jimmy Haslam to override his GM and take Manziel in the first round? Remember that story?
Yeah.
He was walking past a homeless guy and he said, "You better draft Manziel." And then I saw the light. Okay, this guy's on the street. Something's not going well in this guy's life. But he clearly has it enough together to trust your billion-dollar franchise on a court. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's comical if it wasn't, but it would need to be funny because it's not good. The quote I was going for, this is my opinion of my interpretation of what the Cleveland Browns are. It's called Whose Job Is It? And this is a story about 4 people named Everybody, Somebody, Anybody, and Nobody. And I guess you could probably say Alex Shiner, Ray Farmer, Mike Pettine, and Jimmy Haslam. 4 people named Everybody, Somebody, Anybody, and Nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was asked to do it. Everybody was sure somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. When you don't know who you'd make a trade with at the trade deadline, is it Shiner, is it Haslam, is it Farmer, is it Pettine? When you don't know whose job it is, the job isn't getting done, is my point.
Yeah, and when other teams are saying they have no clue who to talk to, that's a pretty big problem. And hopefully, right now, obviously, I don't have too much faith in what's going on until we see results on the field, and I think that's kind of with a lot of fans as well. You want to see results, and we're not seeing it right now, so we're going to have to again be patient and see what happens.
All right. Chip Kelly's name has been floated out here. We'll just do a couple rapid fire and let you get going. Chip Kelly, released by the Eagles. Bill Belichick kind of came out and said, oh, that was disappointing. Maybe he didn't get a fair shake, this, that, or the other. And Chip Kelly's out. And remember, he was kind of the one that the Browns were going for a couple years ago. Do you think there's a chance he lands in Cleveland?
There is a chance. I don't know. I mean, the one thing I could see is, him and Manziel. I think he has an offense that would fit Manziel, but I don't know if you'd want to take a chance on a Chip Kelly who, I think he did okay in Philly for a little bit, but not sure I'd want him as a head coach right now.
Or as the GM, the one trading LaShawn McCoy and letting Macklin walk, and
exactly. We've seen that.
Deshaun Jackson, and you just go, what are you doing over here, God? And by the way, let me remind you that Brandon Weeden started some games this year, and Brian Hoyer's in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Great for those guys. They can say, wow, all the guys that released me are sitting on the couch and I'm in the playoffs this year. It's a great thing.
I know. Such is the story for the Browns. Well, anyway, I'll let you run out the door here. Thanks for joining us again today. Any other final thoughts on the Ohio State Buckeyes season, on what you've seen out of the Cavs so far, any Indians thing, any final words out the door?
Well, Ohio State, they look very impressive versus Notre Dame, and it's just sad. I think, they could probably take any of those teams in the Final Four, but what are you going to do with that? And, the Browns thing, the Cavs, hopefully they keep winning. The Browns hopefully find their coach and GM. Adam Gase will be in here on Wednesday, and the Detroit defensive coordinator will be in here, I believe, tomorrow or today, so we'll see what happens with that. But a lot of things going on. Not all good, some good. We'll see what happens. But, hey, at least the Buckeyes win, and they win every year, even losing about 19 players every year. Isn't that something?
Man, the team that we're losing, and I'll tell you what, Ezekiel Elliott, the more I've watched him, he seems to be one of those special talents. He's one of those guys with the elusive speed, kind of like I don't know if I would say Barry Sanders. He's one of those guys where when you get somewhere into anything that resembles open field, nobody catches the guy. When he's trucking, he's extending his lead. And that's a rare thing. And I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to make somebody a great draft pick this year. And
I agree. He is a beast and very impressive running back that showed what he can do. And he's going to be a good NFL back, that's for sure.
Yeah, too bad Tom Herman wasn't around to make sure they fed him more than, 6 carries, 12 carries in the Michigan State game, whatever the number was. Otherwise, we'd be in the title game. Likely, we at least made the BCS playoffs or whatever the hell they're calling it now. It's not BCS,
that's right.
Whatever it is. But anyhow, all right. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll stay in touch, Rob, and we'll follow this Browns soap opera because it's never ending. And when we get some more developments, we'll bring you back in to talk. One more time on Twitter, you're at rtrauty. That's RTRAUTY. At SOT Podcast, that's for Sports on Tap, at SOT Podcast, and your show can be heard at neosportsinsiders.com. My man, my brother, Merry Christmas, belated, Happy New Year. currently.
You too, buddy.
And we'll continue this.
I appreciate it and look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely. You have a great day. Thanks again for your time. We'll talk soon. And for everybody out there in the TNAM radio network, I want to thank you for listening. Make sure that you subscribe to youtube.com/The New American Media. Also on Twitter at American_media_. On Facebook, you can do a search for The New American Media. And you want to do a search for our group. It's called The Unhappy Hour Sports Show. As long as we can confirm you're an Indians, Cavs, Browns, or Buckeye fan, we'll let you in the group. We just ask that you participate and have a good time. So, I appreciate you. I love you. We'll talk again soon. Peace.
And this is John B. Wells reminding you that not only is Brian Engelman a cool guy, and not only is the newamericanmedia.com a very cool platform, but here's a cool idea for you, too. Are you alone? Not really. Do you like dogs? Do you like cats? You do. Of course you do. Everybody does. One or the other, maybe even both. You know, there are a lot of dogs and cats that are at shelters right now, and if somebody doesn't take them home, they're going to wind up euthanized. That's a nice way of saying they're going to be killed, because there's simply not enough room. I guarantee it, the best dogs and the best cats, the best pets, come from shelters. There's something about dogs and cats. They know. They know where they are. You walk through one of them, and certainly at least one is going to look at you and go, I wish you'd take me home. I'm in hell. Please take me out of here. It'll be the best thing that you ever did for your soul. You'll feel good about it. And not only that, but you have a friend for life. Doesn't matter if you got money, you don't have money. Well, it doesn't make any difference to a dog or cat. All they need is the sound of your voice and maybe even the stroke of your hand, and they're fine. Maybe a little food every once in a while. The sweetest sound that those pets ever hear is your voice. Think it over and adopt a cat or a dog from a local shelter today. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did.